Welcome back to the Point of Difference podcast. My name is Angus Henskins.
And I'm Shaq Shora.
And today we welcome onto the show current Phoenix Mercury player and Sydney Flames Celeste Taylor.
Join us as we break down Celeste's journey from being a McDonald's All-American in high school to playing in some of the top colleges in the US and then getting drafted into the WNBA and currently playing for the Sydney Flames.
So after this, Celeste Taylor. Celeste Taylor, welcome to the Point of Difference podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We're really excited to have you on. It's great getting different people on the show from different backgrounds. Shaq and I are obviously a lot more familiar with sort of the Australian pathway into being a pro. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into basketball and when you started taking it seriously?
Yeah, so I grew up in New York, and obviously basketball is pretty big in New York, but my dad played basketball. I have an older brother. He's 2 years older than me. He played a little bit. And so we would always go outside to the park, and I had a park right across the street from my house. So we would just shoot on the outdoor hoops. My dad's family is really big on basketball. So during the summertime, all my cousins would be out there and we'd just be dribbling, having a little, camp, family camp. But I was just out there having fun. And then as I got a little bit older, probably 8, 9, I was I don't know. I don't know really about basketball. My brother would always be playing, but I wanted to go on the swings. I wanted to go on the slide. I wanted to go on the monkey bars.
Yeah.
I wanted to do everything else. And then I think I just became really big into sports. I wanted to play everything. I wanted to play football. I wanted to play soccer. I wanted to play softball. And obviously, I was already in basketball. So I just happened to be really athletic.
Naturally
can
gifted.
run, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So run, jump, that aspect was always there. And then I think I want to say, in New York, every state in America is kind of different with their rules in high school sports and stuff like that. So I went to a middle school that was connected to a high school at first. It was public. So it was 7th through 12th grade. Mm-hmm. And usually you have a JVs, junior varsity, and then you have varsity team. And as a 7th grader, I was on varsity.
Wow.
And I think once that happened, I was okay, I kind of have to take this serious. It's very rare that somebody gets to do that. And so I was okay. I started playing AAU really heavily. I lived in New York, but I played for Philly team. So I was in Philly every weekend. My dad would drive me.
How long is the drive?
With traffic, about 3-4 hours.
Oh my goodness.
This is every weekend?
This is every weekend.
So why did you go play for them?
It was just, I guess, a better program for me.
Sure.
They really took care of me, really invested in me. And so I had some pretty great coaches that I still talk to this day.
Awesome.
So it's been really cool there. But yeah, once I got into AAU, I had a really good, it would be going into my sophomore year. So my sophomore year of AAU. So I would have 2 more years after that to play. But I did really well. I was on the EYBL circuit, so the Nike circuit.
Yep. Are you playing against older kids at this stage, even in AAU, or is it still by age class?
It's still by age class in AAU at that age. In high school, obviously, being a 7th, 8th grader, I was playing seniors,
Yep.
So I ended up transferring to a private school, Lou High, where Carmelo Anthony's son goes to now. That's
Cool.
probably the biggest name that you would know from there. Yeah, I ended up going there as an 8th grader, so I stayed 1 year in public. I didn't play that much, but I was around, girls going to Michigan, girls going to D1 school. So I had a really great coach there who I'm also still connected with. I think that having that prior background in high school helped so much because it was just I had a coach that where I went into college, I knew everything that the coaches were saying. I knew, how to set a certain screen, the certain screen that they wanted, or an Iverson cut, or just different things like that. You just pick up on those things, but it's all due to the high school coach that you had. I played in some under 19s, under 18 world stuff with USA. So I got to experience playing with some of the greats that we have now. Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
I played with Caitlin Clark, Paige. I played with AZ Fudd. I played with Haley Jones. I played with Ryan Howard. I played with a lot of good Zaya Cook, Jordan Horson. They're my best friends. But I played with a lot of great players throughout my time, and then I ended up going to Texas for 2 years. I didn't think I wanted to go to Texas at first. I honestly wanted to go to Notre Dame, but there was a lot of girls from New York that were going to Notre Dame at that time. So I was like, kind of wanted to pull out something different. I was, since I was young, I was like, always wanted to be different somehow. I don't care what it was, but something was going to make me stand out differently.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to Texas for 2 years. I had a coaching change my sophomore year. I decided to still stay because I loved the university. I loved everything around it, everything it had to offer. And then I ended up transferring. I made it to the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament my sophomore year. I ended up transferring to Duke, was at Duke for 2 years. I had a great time there. And then I finished my 5th year at Ohio State University. Got to make sure I have the D in there.
Wow.
But after that, I just, I think it took me a while, honestly, to find the love for my journey, I would say. I think in the beginning I was just playing it because it was something that got me into college for free.
Mm-hmm. Was that parents, the mindset?
In the beginning.
And even at home, is these are conversations? If you're heading this way, there's free education.
A majority of it was, I wanted to be a pediatrician when I was younger. So my parents, there's 4 of us. They have 4 kids. So to pay for each of us to go to college is just way too much money. So when I knew that basketball would be something to help me, especially help my parents, help my family, I was just like, why not? Why waste that, it was definitely my parents always did do what you want. They never put pressure on me. You need to do this in order for you to go to college. They would have made a way somehow, some way. They would have figured it out. They would have made a way. But in my head, it was definitely something I was just like, I got it. Why? If I could not make my parents pay for college, why would I not do that? Why would I not go that route? But it was definitely something that they talked about a lot.
Cool. There's a lot there.
There's a whole lot to run there.
Could break that down.
I kind of want to
definitely will
come back to sort of high school, and you talked about having a number of different coaches. And I've heard you talk about basketball, and you think the game. And you talk about different passes, different cuts, and all that type of stuff. So these coaches that you had sort of more in your formative years, was there sort of a style of coaching that you responded well to in these years as you sort of developed?
So I think initially, I would say my 8th grade through 12th grade year, I had the same coach in high school, but then in the AAU league, the outside league, summer leagues, I went through a couple different coaches. So early on, I was able to experience different coaching styles.
A lot of styles,
And this is kind of funny, but I majored in psychology, but I think that even brings me back to thinking how different people are and how different their mind works. And I don't know how at a young age. It's probably definitely due to the way I was brought up, but it was just to me, it was just I can never tell. Maybe that's how they think that they can get me to get going. That's how they feel they need to coach me. And I think, initially with my high school coach, I had some kind of bumps in the road, but as I got older, I was just it was just his way, of coaching me and trying to get me fired up and get me to be the player that I am today. But I don't think there was a specific one that I drew to. I had coaches that would yell at me. I had coaches that just pulled me to the side. But I don't know that there was one specific coaching style. And even today, people always ask me that, even
what
a leadership style type thing. How would
exactly.
I just don't feel like there's one specific thing. But I've had so many different coaches. To me, it's natural to see a coach a certain way now, or coach me a certain way.
Yeah, I find that so interesting.
It's so unique. You actually don't hear about it. As coaches, you normally get told, you're going to get a variety of players, and it's on you to be able to connect with every single one, and it's going to be different. And all of a sudden you hear it from a player's perspective. I'm I've kind of had it all, and it's here I am being adaptable and just buying in. I think it's pretty cool. Like, an advice that every young athlete should be like, listening to this and being like, how adaptable, how coachable can I stay, and how much I'm going to benefit out of it in the long term.
Yeah.
And what you're saying about like not being offended by a certain coaching style, but you're just trying to get me going, and like it's not working or it is working or whatever. Okay, well that's really interesting. So that sort of then takes you into college, and so you first go to Texas, and you said like they're playing basketball. I go on the monkey bars. They go to Notre Dame. I go to Texas. That type of thing. I don't want to steal Shaq's thunder, but we talk about you go to a couple of different colleges, and how do you find that you make an impact at a school, and you go to a new school and you're new again and you have to make an impact. You go to a new school and you have to make an impact.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that comes to mind is the character piece and the person that you are. When I was younger, I moved around a lot, so I was always in a new environment, and I don't think it was purposely. But I was always somewhere new. I always went to a new school, lived in a new house, had to make new friends. And so I think that piece has helped me. Just basketball aside, like I didn't play basketball when I was young like that. Like I wasn't in something serious. So people didn't look at me as like just a basketball player and what I could bring to impact a community in that aspect. And so just being in a new environment, being able to have that sense of adaptability, and being able to connect with people, I think that's what started me off initially. But then on the basketball side of things, when I was in high school, I was always big on the defensive end. Like that was just something that I knew could get me on the floor. And then I was really good at knowing the plays, making the right reads, and just figuring it out. Like that adaptability piece is figuring it out on the floor and being able to connect with my teammates. So going from Texas, well, I'll start with from my freshman year to my sophomore year, I had a whole new coaching staff come in. So I was a freshman and I ended up starting as a freshman my first year. So I played a lot. And I didn't really get going until the end of the season. But like that's always been in my career. Like I started off just trying to feel everything out, seeing where I fit. And then once I feel comfortable, like you see me flourish. But then I had new coaches. And for me, it was just like when you're in America and you think of like, I'm going to this college, like you see yourself with one specific coaching staff. Yeah. And like that coaching staff, like I go back, like it's crazy because I didn't even go to this school, but like if there was one school that I would go back to, it'd be UTSA, which is where my freshman coaches coach now. Right. So it's so crazy the connections that you make. But jumping from that, like I had to figure out something that like, okay, like I still have to make an impression on this new coaching staff now. Like there's something that I have to have in order for them to see me. I mean, granted, I had a great end to my freshman year. But like I still had that hunger of like, okay, I need to show this coaching staff why I deserve to play, why I deserve to, like I was never complacent in any school that I went to, in any role change. And so once I went to Duke, like I knew I was a big name for them. It was my coach's full year of coaching a new team, brand new team. She had gotten a whole new starting lineup basically. And I was just like, I just had that mindset of like, I'm going to go in there and show them why I need to be on the floor.
Can you talk more about the transfer, the actual process going from Texas to Duke? What does that look like? I mean, we hear about the transfer portal here, and now it's like every kid that has these offers goes, if I don't fit, I'll just enter the portal and go here and go there. But what does it actually look like, right? Because you're changing everything.
Yeah. So to start, I'll say when I went into the WNBA process of interviews, a lot of people can look at that as a negative of just jumping around and just going to different places. My situation, I feel like, was so unique because I never left the school because I didn't score points or because I didn't play the same amount, like the right amount of minutes in my head. I was playing 30 plus minutes at every school. I was doing what I needed to do. And so when you go into the transfer portal process, so like I never wanted to transfer. And like personally, I looked at it as a bad thing too. Like, why am I going to leave? Like, why, like, how can I just leave a situation because it got hard? Well, because of the whole COVID situation, like I was far away from my parents. They couldn't come see me that much. It just took a toll on me. And I just didn't feel connected with the new coaches that came in. And so it was, they're doing great now. Texas, like I have nothing bad to say, but it wasn't my fit. It wasn't for me. And so, we had played in the bubble. So it was the COVID year. So we played in that bubble.
Where was it?
It was in San Antonio.
Okay.
It was in Texas. Yeah.
That's good.
It was in Texas. So it was kind of cool, but we made it to Elite 8. We lost to South Carolina. Like I did really, really well. And the whole time in the back of my head, like I just wasn't happy.
Wasn't clicking.
It wasn't like I'm enjoying playing this sport right now. Like I was doing really well, but like I didn't have that joy. And I think it was also because like my parents couldn't just easily drive down to see me. Like that's a day and a half to come drive to Texas. Whereas when I went to North Carolina, it's an 8-9 hour drive that you can make in a day.
Doable.
And yeah, I just was talking to my dad and, it was like literally 2 days after we got back from the tournament. I was like, yeah, like I need to find a new home. I need to find somewhere new. So, I go to the compliance office and tell them like, I want to leave. They had the rule where you only could transfer once to be able to, that year, which was crazy. That year they had implemented the rule that you can transfer and play the next year.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it was, because like, I think that would have changed my decision maybe a little bit because sitting out a whole year and not being injured, like I can't even sit out when I'm injured. Like to sit out and like not be injured, like I was like, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, it just happened. And then after my senior year, I had my 5th year and I decided to take my 5th year at Ohio State. And that trend, like both situations were different. Transfer situations were different. Because you look for different things. Like now it's like, I need to go somewhere where I'm comfortable and I know that they're going to prepare me to help me get to the league because this is my last year in college.
So that was the transfer, the second one. That was due to Ohio State. Yes. I was like, I want to be ready for the pros and this is the best spot for me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Along the way, I mean, you just talked about when you go to a new place, making a good impression on people, and you did that through the defensive end. I think that's a really good one because it sort of shows a level of humility of like, I'll do the hard yards for the group. And maybe on that topic, Celeste Taylor's all-time starting 5 of teammates.
Based on
you picked the criteria.
Anything.
You picked the criteria. Could be anything.
Is this like an easy question? Like, would you be able to name 5 off the top of your head?
We talk about it all the time.
People are always sliding in and out of our starting lineups.
Oh my God, okay.
Shaq will get home from practice and say, she's out of my 5.
Okay. I mean, I feel like I would have to put Diana Taurasi on
I think that's an easy answer. No one is going to hate you for that answer.
I'll do Joyner Holmes. She was with me at Texas my freshman year. She was with Seattle this past year. Now she just went to Dallas. Joanne Allen Taylor from Texas, like just the grit and the tenacity that she played with and the way we played together, even though we wouldn't be playing together in the starting 5. Like I just think she's just like will run through a wall. Jordan Horston, I'm going to put Jordan Horston on there. She's with Seattle right now. Just very versatile player, like good person, like, yeah. And then I'll say Kelsey Mitchell. She's on Indiana, and she was a great vet for me. Talking
about now, like really, we're all about the point of difference, right? Yeah. And by the sounds of it, with you've kind of been able to just constantly adapt and like fit yourself into new systems, new experiences, like high school, college, now moving on to the pros, like that process of getting drafted. And obviously you had quite a wild, like, I guess, last 12 to 18 months. Can you talk us through it and just some of the experience from the point of like, all right, I finished my year at Ohio State. What happens from there? The draft, being picked up, and then everything that follows.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with Ohio State. So at Ohio State, I kind of learned. So at Texas and at Duke, I was the face of the program, basically. When I got to Ohio State, there were already people there that there for 4 years, you know, so I had to find my role. I had to find my niche. And I think that was one of the things that I needed, the last step that I needed in order to go and be a pro, because when you're a rookie in the pro, it's very rare that you're like a Caitlin Clark and you're going into a team and you're starting and you're averaging all these points and you're doing an angel, like it's rare. And so for me, you have to, like we talked about before, find other ways to impact a game. And so that year, that 5th year helped me because it literally helped me find myself around amongst great players. Like I had to find how I can impact that game. And so once I was done, we ended up losing to Duke in the 2nd round.
Oh,
Damn.
So the team I lost,
The X.
literally, yeah, it was really a tough one. Cause like, you know, I could sit here and say if I was at Duke, we wouldn't have played Ohio State because we probably would have been ranked a little higher, you know, finished at a higher seed. But of course, that's how the paths crossed. You know, that's how my life had to work.
Yeah, it had to happen.
Totally.
But yeah, so we lost to Duke beginning of March, maybe mid-March. And then I had stayed for a little bit. And then I went home maybe, I want to say the week of the draft. So like, it was like April. It was like April. So I was having interviews in Ohio, like over Zoom I had an interview with Seattle, New York, and I had a phone call with someone from Phoenix. So it's just like them trying to get to know you. And the biggest question was like talked about was me transferring 2 times and I was at 3 different schools. That was the biggest thing, which rightfully so, understandable. But once I did those interviews, I went home and the draft was literally that weekend. So I was home for like 2 days. The draft was in New York, so it was good because I, you know, obviously just drove right over there to the hotel. The whole draft experience was like, you know, you get 15 people are invited and, you know, you just get to experience like everything that goes with the Players Association. People come in to talk mental health. They just talk about a whole bunch of stuff. You get to be around all the girls and get to go through that process with them. You have a media training session. Like you just get to experience that whole draft thing. So I was lucky enough to and blessed enough to be there. And then, you know, having talks with my agent, seeing, you know, what teams are saying, this, that, and the third. So, you know, I go into it, I'm sitting at the table, and I want to say New York had the 11th pick. I want to say it could be the 10th, but it was one of those. They had the first pick out of the teams that I talked to. Phoenix had the only pick they had was in the 3rd round. So, or late 2nd. New York, they said that they had already had somebody in mind, so that they were going to pass. Then Seattle was next, and they had taken Nika Mule from UConn. So I'm sitting there, and my agent texted me, and she's like, "Oh, looks like it's going to be Indiana at 15." And you know, at first you're like just like in shock because like 1, I didn't talk to them, but 2, like, okay, I'm about to get drafted. Caitlin Clark was just drafted there. Like, all right, like just process it. Yeah. So the whole time I'm like, I'm not going to cry, like whatever. And my mom like never cries. And like I stand up and she's the first person that I hug. And she's whispering in my ear. And I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, you really want me to cry right now? Like, I'm trying to hide back tears already. And you're whispering, like, I'm so proud of you. Like, this is, like, I'm just like, oh.
And the waterfall.
Yeah, so then I'm just like, it's coming down. Then I got to go up on stage, take a picture already. And I'm like, oh, the tears are already coming down. I'm trying to hold that back so I look crazy in that picture. Then I got to go do an interview. And I'm like mumbling because I'm trying to hold back everything, all the emotions or whatever. So... But that bypasses, everything's cool there. I get to Indiana. I'm going through training camp, and I guess I overshot because I started having pain in my wrist. Like it was like where I couldn't dribble the ball, but like I was like
over how long? How long is this we talking about?
So the draft was, oh, let me not get this date wrong, but it was between like the 15th of April and the 18th of April, I want to say. And then so I went to Florida to go see my grandpa. I went on a trip I love Disney. So I went to Disney right before Indiana with my boyfriend and one of my best friends, and just got some chill time. So I was there for maybe like 5 days. And I'm actually still in school during this time, so I'm still have class finals. So finishing up projects, papers, and stuff like that for my master's. And I want to say, so maybe like a week after the draft, I'm down in Indiana. And it kind of worked out because I was in Ohio, and Ohio was only an hour and a half drive from Indiana. So all the stuff I had in Ohio, I could have just moved down. So I was there for training camp, whatever. Ended up making it. And we still had a player. We had 12 people on the roster, but we had a player that was injured. So she chose not to get paid during that time, but she was there to rehab and stuff. So we knew at one point that someone would have to get waived. And, you know, in my head, I'm thinking it's going to be a post player because that's who we were getting in. And, you know, I was doing everything that I believed I needed to do. I was getting positive feedback from the coaching. And, you know, sometimes when, you know, you think you're doing all the right things, you could still do all the right things and, you know, just not work out in your favor. So, yeah, I had gotten right after practice, we were supposed to leave to go on our West Coast trip. And they brought me in and they were just like, yeah, that they have to waive somebody. But I was a great teammate. I did everything they asked me to do, all that good stuff. So once that happened, I think it was more of a shock. Like in my head, I didn't, how do I say this? I wasn't distraught, but at the same, like I knew it could happen, but at the same time, it's just like when you aren't told what you're doing wrong, it's kind of hard to digest that.
Yeah, like you need something to go off of. You need to be able to sit down and be like, okay, these are the reasons. Here's something I can do about it.
Exactly. So I didn't feel like I got that. So I was like, all right, like what do I do now? But I got, I want to say 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. I got 2 weeks. So after they waived me, I had a 2 week span. So they have to have a roster by a certain date, and that's you have to get paid once you're on a roster, on the team's roster. So they waived me. So I ended up I was hanging out with my friends, and I ended up going to like a little friend's house in Pennsylvania, chilled with my friends a little bit, hung with my family. I ended up going down to San Antonio to where my freshman year coaches are. I ended up working out with them, staying with them, visiting them, which was like completely needed. And while I was there, the last day, I was supposed to get on my flight the next day to come back home. And my agent's like, Phoenix wants you down there. So, you know, you're like, okay, like, you know, like I have a suitcase just to be in San Antonio right now. Like I don't have a suitcase for anything else. So they fly me out, and who do we play the first game? Indiana.
Of course.
So I fly from San Antonio, and I get into Indiana, and I'm like, know the place because I was there for months. So nobody really knows yet. You know, I see my teammates, meet my coaches. So, you know, whatever, it's cool. The game's the next day. So I see everybody. Everybody's like, oh my God, like, you know, cool. So, you know, I'm feeling like I'm on a team with DT, BG, Ka, Todd. Like I'm on the team with Beck Allen's on the team, and I'm like, all right, like, you know, I'll get like 4 minutes. I ended up playing, I think, 22 minutes.
Wow.
Damn.
We were down by like, I want to say 30, 35, brought the game back within like 5. I was in the game. Like, I was just like, I don't know if I was shocked at that time. I was just like, listen, like, I couldn't tell you the last time I played more than 5 minutes in a game. It was my last college game. Like, it had been, maybe 5 months. So, like, and, like, I wasn't playing, like, I was working out, but I wasn't, like, playing in an actual game that whole time. So it was just, like, to have that stamina to be able to be on the court, to be able to play and pick up on plays and pick up on actions. And, yeah, it was kind of cool, though. It was kind of cool. And then from there, I stayed with them. It was a unique situation. I was on a 7-day, but the Olympic break had hit. So we had a good chunk of time there.
Right.
And once that happened, I was there the whole time through the Olympic break. I had like 2 or 3 more days, played a game, And my 7-day was over after that. That night I was in, I want to say I was in Atlanta. They told me like, you know, they wanted to keep me, but they just couldn't because of the cap salary, the roster size, all that stuff. That night, Connecticut called my agent and was like, well, we'll pick her up for a 7-day. So I went from Atlanta. Mind you, I'm still living out of this suitcase. One suitcase, because I'm thinking I'm only going to be there for 7 days. Go to Connecticut. Well, go to Dallas, because they played Dallas. Played in that game, Dallas. Then they had a big game in TD Garden, where the Boston Celtics play.
Yeah.
So that was like their first time like playing in there.
Cool.
So it was like a big game. It was really cool. It was a great environment to be a part of. The next day we had off, and then the day after that they had practice. So I was on a 7-day with them. They were trying to sign me for the rest of the season, but Phoenix had called. They had ended up making a trade, so opened up some space. So they wanted to take me back. They signed me for 2 more 7 days, and then after that, the rest of the season. So
What
just,
a roller.
Yeah, it's a whirlwind.
just a lot of fun.
Yeah. So it's funny because like we had Fleur on one of the episodes of the podcast, and she sort of gave us the other side of it, which is that like you have 12 players, you can't have 13 players, and someone gets injured and it's like scramble because people are having, you know, they're playing around the world, the talented players that you want on your roster. So yeah, it's kind of funny hearing your side of it, of the same sort of, you getting dragged in 8 different directions. I kind of want to hone in on one thing that you said, because I think it's something that a lot of players can relate to at some point during their careers, whether it's about getting cut from a team, not playing the minutes that you want, where the coach or the management will say something like, we love what you're doing, but we love what this player is doing slightly more, and it's nothing wrong with your game.
Yeah.
How do you find that you deal with that? What sort of things do you think you can do in that sort of situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is putting your head down and continuing to work. Like, there's always something that you could get better in, you know? And so I was just, I think, strictly focused on just getting better, just being ready. Because in the W, it's all about opportunity. You have to find the right fit and the right team. And so it was just continuing to work. You never know when a team's going to call. As you can see, you know, they called out of nowhere, but just being ready. I think another thing for me is like, I'm really big in my faith in God. And so something that throughout even the process with Indiana, it was just like, you know, if I focus so much on like being a part of the team and just, you know, trying to make it and just focusing so much on that instead of like the journey and the process, like I obviously was put in this position for a reason. You know, I obviously had to go through these things in order to end up where I am. And so I think not so much focusing on like that negative piece, but like, okay, you gave me positives. I got positives out of that. Like I got some good stuff. I got some good feedback. And, you know, as much as you want to hear that negative feedback because you think that there's something wrong, like if I was to focus too much on that, then I wouldn't be able to continue to be my best self and be ready for the next opportunity that arises.
I think there's something in that for everybody, whether they have faith or not, about sort of not fighting the current and just allowing sort of things to happen where they are. But the first point you made about being self-critical and being realistic about yourself and your improvement areas, I find that something that people have or not.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a way that you can develop that sort of ability to be introspective? How do you think you've always had it?
Yeah, I think since I was young, I've always just been very self-critical. I think it's just like, you know, I had to have stuff done a specific way. And, you know, I had to be the one to do it. Like, you know, you have that type of control in a way, but at the same time, like understanding that you can't control everything. And I don't want to say that it's something that you can't gain an understanding of, or it's something that you just have to have. But at the same time, like, I think the people around you play a part in that. And I think your perspective plays a part of it in it. Like, you know, if you see the world as everyone else is doing something wrong and you never look in the mirror, like you're never going to gain that perspective. You're never going to be introspective of and self-aware of what you're doing. But I think there's also a balance. Like you can't be too self-critical and you can't be too inside yourself that you don't pay attention to your surroundings and who the people are around you.
Definitely.
And I think, like, you know, you hear about this, especially with sports, like, you know, the environment is constantly changing. Everything moves so fast. Being present and being able to just focus on yourself and, like, what you find joy in goes such a long way, especially like we're hearing about this insane journey and it's such a short time frame where we're practically saying almost everything is out of your control right here. You know, like you just kind of literally move around with a suitcase from A to B and get told, like, okay, I have to be here now and this is what I have to do, and it's on you to just do that. You know, and it's just like, I think it's incredible to be able to actually do it. You know, we talk about these things and you talk about being present, but actually doing it takes so much more.
It's definitely mentally tough. Like it's draining to a certain point. Like I remember, you know, even being at Phoenix and it's just like, you know, when you, especially for a WNBA player, it's just like in the situation that I'm in, you feel like you have no job security. You feel like there isn't somewhere you could just continue to go back to. And like you even see like some vets, like even trades going on and trades happening where it's just they feel like they have this stability, but they don't. And like, that's just not in your control. Like it's tough, you know, it's hard. So
this is rapid fire questions. All right.
Okay.
All right. What's your coffee order?
Iced caramel latte.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Sausage roll or meat pie? Exactly.
No, good.
Sausage roll?
Bang.
You had one?
No, I haven't had either, I don't think.
Meat pies are legit, but it's okay.
Free throw routine?
Spin, dribble, shot.
Cricket or rugby?
Ooh. I like the physicality in rugby, but I'm going to go with cricket. I'm going to go with cricket because it's kind of like softball.
I love it.
I feel it.
Favorite artist?
Music artist?
Yes. Or art artist?
I'll go with music artist. Favorite. I feel like I'll go with Michael Jackson. Can't go wrong.
Elite.
Can't go wrong.
Mountains or the beach?
The beach.
Jordan or LeBron?
I'll go with LeBron.
Books or movies?
I just turned into a book girl, so I think I'm going to go with books.
How recent is this?
Recent. Like a month.
Love it. Okay. Let's see if that holds.
Follow-ups in the rapid fire. I love it. What sport are you best at aside from basketball?
Softball.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that's
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Killed it.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, very
that was
well
awesome.
done. Now, finishing the W season, and this opportunity comes up. Sydney, talk to us about, again, having to adapt, and this time it's a whole different ballgame. It's literally a different ballgame. It's a different country. What was the transition like? And being able to kind of find your feet and finding your role, new players. I mean, everything is new.
Yeah, I think. I've played overseas basketball, you know, in my the under 19s and stuff like that. But I think going from such a big stretch of like college to my crazy W season to this, like I think it took me a while to realize that like I had a solidified spot in a sense, you know what I'm saying? Like
definitely.
I had a place where I can call home for a little bit. And so for me, you know, I kind of had a rocky start here. I started off in the point guard position here, which I love. Like I don't care where I am on the floor, but I started off in the point guard position, and then I got moved to the 2, which I feel like took me a little while to like, because I'm a playmaker. Like I love passing my teammates the ball. And it's bad to a certain extent because a lot of times like I can be the one shooting the ball, scoring and stuff. But yeah, so it just took me a little while longer for that to happen. And then I think like my whole career, my 3-point percentage has never showed how good of a 3-point shooter that I am. And I feel like a lot of people have this issue, but like it's taken a little longer for me. And I feel like the last maybe 4 or 5 games, I feel like I've settled in. And I have just tried to find and continue to be in the role that I have found throughout the season. So initially it was kind of tough. You know, I have great players around me and just understanding how they like the ball. And then we had injuries. So then it's like you're taking certain people out and you're playing other people more. And so it's like understanding how they like the ball, where they like the ball, where they can help us. But yeah, I mean, I think for all of us, it's been an up and down season. But I think like now it's gotten a little better, just trying to find, stay in the consistent role that I found.
What sort of challenges or opportunities do you think being in a competition where, like you say, you do have a bit more stability, so you can be a bit more comfortable, maybe you can take more risks than perhaps you could in the WNBA. Have you found this sort of like an opportunity to develop, or kind of a place to catch your breath?
I think a little bit of both. I also think a space to give me confidence, and find that confidence and gain that confidence back. I mean, like, granted, I'm on the floor with, you know, Diana Taurasi and BG and Kalia Copper, and so, you know, I'm getting the ball. I have an open shot, but there's a one more to DT. Like, I'm swinging that ball.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're swinging that rock,
Yeah.
and so I think coming here is just like sometimes like my good shot is better than someone else's good shot.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think just finding that confidence, understanding where I can score, and getting back to that player, because I have the pieces around me now, that I'm not one of those pieces that are around someone else. I think that definitely has helped. And then just like you said, like having a place to like just breathe. Like, you know, I could go back to an apartment with all my stuff in there. You know, I can.
You had a suitcase.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, just being in a whole nother environment. I love to travel as well. So I've had a lot of friends from Australia as well. And so being able to reconnect with some of them while I've been here has been pretty cool too. And then just creating new relationships. So just giving me that home presence.
Definitely. All right, Celeste. Well, thank you very, very much for coming on the show. It's been awesome talking to you, and all the best going forward.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Much.